right, welcome back to Hot Copy. Still with us is Senator Bongbong Marcos. It's the second half of the program, and Twitter has been very, very busy. Apparently, there are a lot of people curious about you. Very quickly. But you have to make this quick.
All right, I'll try.
The president being open to charter change.
I'm sorry?
The president being open to charter change.
Yes, but the reasons he gave were precisely the reasons that people did not want charter change for. If you remember in the time of GMA, that was proposed, and the economic provisions and all that, and the general public just said it might just be used for political advantage.
So you don't agree with it?
Not for term extension.
Not for term extension. No. Okay. So should Binay face the Senate?
Oh, I don't know. That's really very much up to him, because you know there are two sides again to this kind of investigation. There's the legal side, the cases brought against him in court. But then again, there's perception.
But someone running for 2016,
yes, he should, because he must. If he's a candidate, and a candidate will be asked these questions. I mean, I'm sure he's not surprised that this is happening. I'm sure he expected this. So I'm sure he is also prepared to answer it. So, although his contention is that the senators conducting the hearings are very much already biased against him, and that's why he doesn't come. But perception is important.
So he should. You feel he should.
I think he needs to explain some of the things that have been said.
Now, how do you feel after hearing? I know you were interviewed on this, but just very quickly, President Aquino in the U.S. saying that he wanted to exact revenge on the death of his father, and pertaining, without mentioning the Marcos family, pertaining clearly to your father.
Well, I cannot speak to to his feelings and to his reaction to certain events. But again, from our side of the picture, it really we were talking. There's a difference between politics and personal. Yeah. And in our case, at least, what the opposition or I don't know how you want to describe it, but the differences there, the political differences between my father and his father were in politics, not personal. I actually saw them speaking to each other. Ang tawagan nila Brad, and they talked to each other perfectly civilly. But of course, they were fighting tooth and nail in the political arena.
So you have never spoken to President Aquino in private at any point in both your lives?
No.
No. Do you feel that this has been hounding you? I'm curious, on a more personal note, as a senator. Here you are, you won, you're clearly working, you're trying to make a name for yourself, and it seems old issues in history continue to hound you. Is that a challenge for you?
Well, yes, it is, because it's very hard to move forward and to talk about the issues at hand, which need our immediate attention.
That's why we did that in Head Start. Okay, go on,
Thank you for that. And if we keep reliving, rehashing, redebating what happened 20 odd years ago, and you know the result of those events is very clear. My father's government fell. So that's it. That's the result. So we really need to then so that's part of history. What happens now? What do we do now? We are faced with this power crisis. We have these issues that the economic issues, the poverty issues, all of these things that need to be attended to. So when do we get to that?
Okay. All right. Now, how long will your family wait? This was, I think you tackled this in Linda Humilia's program. But how long, this is a Twitter question now, how long will your family wait for the burial of former President Marcos? That's a good question.
It is.
How long will you wait is the question.
We'll wait until, I suppose, we feel that his rights as a soldier and as a president are honored.
Yeah, which is military honors.
Which is military honors, because when President Aquino first became president, one of the first things he did was to instruct Vice President Binay to study the question and to give recommendations. And we met with Vice President Binay, the family, and the compromise was that he be buried in Ilocos Norte, but with full military honors. And that was the recommendation recommendation of Vice President Binay, but the palace turned it down. So that was the end of that. So our position hasn't changed. We feel, again, that for a bemedaled soldier, on that basis alone, he has a right to be buried in Libigan ng Bayani. And as the longest sitting president, on that basis alone, he also has the right to be buried in Libigan ng Bayani.
Okay, you said longest sitting president. There was an interview with you, I had also read with research, that you were against martial law.
I was against martial law?
I'm not sure about that martial law, but then this is the exact quote on you, wherein you had said, okay, you were asked about martial law, and then you said you were in the UK, you were 15 years old, and then you were quoted in the interview as saying this: martial law is not my cup of tea. Did you quote that? Did you say that?
I think that was in the context of the present.
Okay.
Is there reason to have martial law now or to declare martial law now? And I think that was that because that is the way I feel. I don't think that it is appropriate now. And besides, everything has changed, and it's not the same situation. So, as in concept, in principle, you know, we have to have the capacity to declare martial law if we enter into war, for example, and in such big crises. But again, if it is applicable to the problems that we have now, I feel that the government has all the means to solve the big problems that we are facing. It's just a question of buckling down and examining the problems, making a plan, and implementing it.
Okay. Now, Sir Papa Nico wants to know your thoughts on political dynasty.
Well,
that's interesting.
Yeah, well, political dynasties.
Would you consider to having a political dynasty, your family?
Well, I suppose by the definition of the law that's being studied, that's being debated now, both in the House and yes, I suppose we are.
Because the president promises to pass that before he steps down. Well,
again. It doesn't sit right with me that someone should be disallowed from running from office just by virtue of their family name or their connection, because that does not seem to be that seems to be arbitrary in trying to
although
stop.
It becomes an advantage, though, an unfair advantage to someone who doesn't have family in office, like the Binays, for example. Well, so how far would you go in terms of fixing or tweaking that law?
It comes back down to an intelligent voter, because what this is trying to address is the continued presence of a single family, kahit na ayaw na nung tao. But if what it comes down to the voter, and that's why I always say the best anti-dynasty mechanism is an election. But you must be an intelligent voter. You look at who your candidates are. Are they good? Are they not good? Have they a good history? Do you believe in them? Not because they have a pretty face or they have the same name as you, or you know them from.
Now, Joy Agustin wants to know, how would you assess DILG Secretary Mar Rojas? It's a Twitter question.
Assess?
Is he good at his job?
Well, I think that he's trying to reorganize the DILG in such a way that it functions better. But I think, had a very big change in policy when Secretary Jess Robredo
passed away. Okay, so there was a change in policy.
Oh, definitely. There were some measures that he was pushing that we are no longer seeing so much of.
Okay. Now, in 2016, there's a lot of talk in 2016. People say it's far off. But frankly, if it were U.S. standards, this is quite close. But in the Philippines, anything can happen. Are you considering running? I mean, you're with NP, right? So you are with Senator Alan Cayetano and Senator Antonio Trillanes. Senator Trillanes has been quite open of saying, you know, if I have the opportunity to run for a higher post and serve, I would. And Senator Alan Cayetano has said, what's wrong with wanting the presidency? Are you gunning for for any of those two posts?
No, we're not. Again, I would agree with those who say it's much too early to be talking about that. We are different from the United States. We don't have primaries, and that's what the last presidential election between Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama went on for a year and a half because the primary process was so hard fought because they were very, very close. So that's why there have been primaries that third, fourth, fifth state pa lang.
So are you considering to run for president?
Going on and what the possibilities are.
After the Aquino presidency, there will be another 6 years. Do you feel at any point, Senator, that the public will be open again to a Marcos in the presidency or vice presidency level, considering there's been such, it's very long fought in history, the dictatorship, EDSA, this was a bulk of recent history. I want to ask you that, if that is a major challenge for you, that, you know, I'll be blunt, they'll say this, Marcos yan eh. Ito man si Bongbong, presidente, vice-presidente, Marcos yan. How do you feel and respond to these accusations when you are already not your father, but you are of your father?
Well, that's a perfect. I think it's perfectly natural for people to think that way. But again, as you say, to make a name for yourself and to whatever their opinions were of my father, again, it's a different time, it's a different place, and a different Marcos. So it's apples and oranges, really, because it's two different people in a different. You know, we're talking 2 generations already.
I think past. 3.
Or possibly 3. Yes.
No, it's 4. Yeah, 1970. Your father, 1960, 70, 80, 90, 20, 4 to 5.
Marami-rami na nga.
Oh yeah, well,
so,
decades.
Again, so it's a whole different set of circumstances.
Yeah.
So to go back to your question, are they ready? I don't know, but I feel that history will be the ultimate judge, and I believe that history will be much kinder and much more objective about my father's administration than, of course, his detractors and his political enemies are.
Okay. Now, the youth today, UP came out with a study that the bulk of voters are 18 to 40 plus, and a lot of them were not even born during martial law. I was born 1970, okay, but I'm 43. But talk about the 18-year-old voters.
Yeah.
It's true that a lot of them don't know of martial law. They didn't live through that time. When you go out, do you feel this is an advantage, or do you talk about it? Do you believe it should be taught in schools? How do you deal with it?
The kids, especially on Facebook and things like that, they ask me.
They do.
What was your father thinking when he did this?
Do you engage?
Yeah, I explained.
On Facebook?
I explained. I say,
you're the only senator engaging on Facebook.
I don't think so.
Yeah, really? There are, but you do.
Oh no, it's well recognized that it's an important tool for all of us to try and gauge the people's thinking, and it's important to engage in that sense.
Yeah.
But that's the kind of reaction I'm getting. It's not saying that you're bad, you're good, you're this, you're that. It's really a question. Is it why did he do this? What was behind that? What was his thinking? That's always seems to be there's that curiosity that kids have, because if you look at surveys, there is this category where not only kids but most ordinary Filipinos, they put all of these discussion, politika.
Napipikon ka ba ever?
Hindi na.
Hindi na.
Matagal nang
hindi na.
Hindi na.
Okay, I want to ask you, now that you are in your 50s, but we can't detail it now because the show's about to end, but in your father's leadership, in another program perhaps, looking back, I'm sure you've read all his decisions. Do you agree with everything he's done?
Well, yes. I have perfect confidence in that he felt that what he was doing was the was the best and the most correct thing that could be done to address whatever problems, whatever challenges the country was facing.
Okay. Okay. Now, your mother, of course, former First Lady Imelda Marcos, who's quite an icon abroad even, was invited to the Ateneo Scholars by Ateneo Scholars several months ago, and you saw the public out. There was an outrage. It was like Butch Abad going to UP in a similar form, in a way. I mean, and then you have the Ateneo president, Father Jet Villarin, apologizing. How did you feel about that? Or do you think it was necessary? Do you agree with?
Well, you know, it was to celebrate a scholarship fund which she began. I don't see why what the problem was. She, in fact, if not for her, that scholarship program would not exist.
Yeah.
And so it is perfect. My view is that it is perfectly natural for her, as being the pioneer of that scholarship program.
Do you ever
to be there and to look back and see how it started and how it's grown and how it's been successful?
I want to ask you if you've ever had these fears, because in Ukraine they practically threw a congressman in the trash can, and then you've seen this, no? They did. And then, well, Butch Abad was the biggest shocker of entering UP and booed completely, and then moving your mother, going to Ateneo. You're right. I mean, she supported that program. Do you ever feel that you go to a place, am I welcome there? Do you ask that with your staff?
Perhaps when we first came back from the United States.
Maybe, but not anymore.
We were thinking
today.
That. But again, I always recount the story that the first call I made when I landed in the Philippines, I was still in the airport.
Yeah.
And I called my mother and I said, you know, come home. It's not true, and it's not true what people are saying that everyone is against us. It's not like that at all.
Okay.
And I never felt.
All right.
If someone has something to say, they say it to me. But they're very civil and they want an answer. They're not there just to scream at me. They want to hear what I have to say.
So you've never been screamed at, huh? Like this? It hasn't happened?
Screamed at? Well,
cajoled, I think, that was terrible.
No, it just, no. Generally
Never.
Speaking, people want to know, you know, we feel this way very strongly about this, that, and the other. What do you have to say? They actually want to hear what you have to say.
Okay, all right. 2 more questions. It's up to you how you want to answer it.
Okay.
At this point in time, where the PCGG has allegedly confiscated billions in Marcos wealth, do you categorically deny that these Swiss accounts existed?
Which Swiss accounts are these now?
Go ahead, please.
No, which? Because you know, this is you know, all of these cases of the Marcos family has no longer been represented, and we have not argued it in court anymore for many years now.
Yeah.
We don't even send lawyers, and in fact, the case with the human rights was between the human rights claimants and the Philippine government.
Yeah.
The Marcos family was no longer involved. So
you personally, I can see that you don't want to engage yourself in that kind of argument anymore. That's how I read you. Am I reading you correct?
Well, I don't think it serves much purpose, because the decisions in court have been made, the judgments have been made. It's a question of implementing it. And again, as far as the Marcos family is concerned, the judgments against us are there, and that's the end of it.
Okay.
So I don't know what else we can.
All right. Here's a good question for you. Text coming from one of our bosses. Do you have a Swiss account?
No.
Okay. All right. Last question. Okay. There's a law that provides the compensation of victims of documented human rights violations. I had asked you this in the campaign. Do you remember? I had asked you, and you said, Karen, no. I believe we do not have. My father does not have human rights violations.
Well, if you remember,
yes,
the Human Rights Commission gave my mother a certification that there were no human rights cases against any of us.
Okay, so the question is exactly, because there was never, this question goes, there was never an admission on that part. The question is, would you consider the law wrong, or the lawmakers crafted it wrong? Because you have to remember, Senator Chis Escudero was even the one, I think, who headed that, am I right, in the Senate, about a human rights violation compensation. Just recently.
There have been several measures that have been introduced.
Yeah. So how do you feel about that? Was the law wrong, or the lawmakers then who crafted it wrong?
I don't know why it was wrong. I mean, if the intent is to compensate victims, then that seems to serve its purpose. The law seems to serve its purpose.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't see where the wrong comes in. Why should anyone be wrong? Why should the law doesn't? Nothing that's happened would seem to indicate that either the lawmaker or the law is wrong.
All right. Okay. Last word, Senator Bongbong Marcos. Okay. Oh my gosh, no, I don't want to ask. See, Mark Levista is texting, but thank you for your question, Mark. Your last words, I guess we've holistically, in a way, I mean, covered a few, but then there's a lot more questions for you, especially on Twitter. At the end of the day, where is Bongbong Marcos going? Will you be running for the Senate again? That would be in 2019.
No,
Ano ba? 2016 ka rin?
2010 ako pumasok.
So 2016?
2016 is my next election.
So offhand, categorically, can you declare
that
what position? You're clearly running again.
No, I'm running. My default position on the 2016 election is simple. I'm a re-electionist.
Exactly.
For the Senate. This is my first term. There have been a lot of supporters, and I thank them for their confidence in my abilities, saying that
you should run for higher office.
But again, that kind of decision must be made much closer to the time, because politics in the Philippines is so volatile, moves so quickly, that to decide on the basis of what the political context is now would necessarily, I think, bring a wrong conclusion, because you're basing it on something that will not exist when the campaign period comes and when the election comes.
That's true too. Okay, last, would you ever consider running after an Aquino administration?
I don't think the fact that it is after an Aquino administration matters one way or the other.
Okay, another question. Do you think Binay will be a good president? You're good now. You can't. No one can get you at blink. Okay.
We think Binay will be a good president. Well, he has certainly been. It has certainly been his ambition for a long time. So maybe he's thought about how to be a good president. So I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say because you cannot judge someone being a mayor or a vice president on how good the president they'll be. It's very difficult.
Do you think Senator Bongbong Marcos, I want to ask you, if given the chance, would you be a good president?
I hope so.
All right. Senator Bongbong Marcos, thank you for coming to the show. Let's get started today. I'm Karen Davila. Replay of this interview is at 6 p.m. tonight, 4:30 a.m. tomorrow, and throughout the day. And you can watch us on the Filipino channel. Thank you, everyone.